Millions face blackouts after Mother Nature contributes a damaging storm to an already spreading energy crisis. Nationwide, plunging temperatures and soaring fuel costs are sending food costs through the roof. A new anatomy of the Texas prison breakout and the violent gang that pulled it off. And Timothy McVeigh prepares to learn the day he will die.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
And this is a special Western edition. Good evening. Millions of Californians face rolling power blackouts tonight after a powerful storm piled natural disaster on top of the state's man-made deregulation disaster. With energy costs spiking ever higher, many Golden State residents may not be able to keep the lights on at any cost tonight. Lights could go dim or go out completely as utility officials struggle to prevent an uncontrolled collapse of the power grid. CBS's Sandra Hughes is covering this still-breaking story.
Under the West's first punishing storm of the winter, California's fragile power grid finally snapped. As streets flooded and high tide washed out beaches, one of the biggest power suppliers to Northern California, the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, had to be shut down. Huge waves pushed seaweed and other debris into the cooling ducts. California power officials have put out the call, pleading for more power from neighboring states.
We are working with all of our neighboring control areas, neighboring states, to access all possible megawatts, and are literally taking every megawatt that we can.
Even though the cold, dark storm knocked out some power throughout California, those who still had it turned up the heat and left the lights on later into the morning, pushing the power grid to the limit. Customers like Cal Poly Pomona College, asked to conserve, shut down entirely to save energy. Today's power emergency couldn't have come at a worse time for California's utilities, which are threatening bankruptcy as skyrocketing wholesale power prices push them to the brink. Yesterday, for the first time, cash-strapped Pacific Gas and Electric could not pay shareholders a stock dividend. Power generators supplying the energy to California largely run on natural gas, which is experiencing its own price surge.
I have a bid on the board for $59.
The frenzy for new sources of power led to the highest bidding war ever for natural gas drilling rights in Washington state today.
$49.
Given what's happening in the energy market, it is both surprising and amazing, but not unexpected.
The cities of Beverly Hills and Long Beach here in Southern California have been alerted to expect rolling blackouts at any time. However, late this afternoon, the power distributor was still scrambling to get out-of-state help to keep the lights on. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
California isn't the only place suffering sticker shock as the end of El Nino and La Nina bring the return of so-called normal winter weather in many parts of the country, and utility costs are only the beginning. Costs for food and a lot of other things also are going up. Cynthia Bowers has the chilling facts on the CBS Weather Watch.
For everybody who thought this winter couldn't get more costly, get ready for round two. Coming soon to a produce aisle near you.
We'll probably see 30 to 40% price increases in particular items that come from Florida over the next couple to 3 weeks.
Basics like beans now selling for $1.99 a pound. The price of strawberries has blossomed to $6.99, all because of disastrous weather in Florida. Over the last 3 months, more than $260 million of crops have been burned by frost or lost to floods.
Yeah, I'm sick of it, but I told the kids last night, I said, this is my last night, last year.
The cost of the cold is adding up to hard times all over. Nearly a month after ice storms hit southern Arkansas, power is still out in some places, and the state has taken a $70 million hit just to keep roads passable. For the first time ever, homeowners in the Northeast are expected to pay more than $1,000 to keep their homes warm this winter. And with natural gas prices burning out of control, insulation is suddenly a hot commodity.
From 8 jobs a day, we've went to probably 15 to 16 jobs a day since this gas deal's come up.
The high cost of heating isn't just hurting homeowners, businesses are getting soaked as well. Jim Colucci runs the Russian bathhouse in downtown Chicago, but it's this month's gas bill making him sweat.
Last winter, our gas bill was about $6,500. This year, it's almost $15,000.
Economists say it's hard to put a dollar figure on how much this wicked weather is costing, but there's no doubt it's put an added chill on an already cooling economy.
Retail spending has been very weak, auto sales have been very weak, and consumer spending is 2/3 of all economic activity.
Now, it's hoped prices will stabilize by spring, but if frigid temperatures return in full force, it is likely the effects of this winter will be felt long after the weather warms up. Dan?
Cynthia Bowers in Chicago, thanks. Texas prison officials are embarrassed, but so far take no responsibility for last month's brazen escape by 7 dangerous convicts. The blame, they said, is lower down. The escapees remain at large tonight, and as CBS's Maureen Maher reports, they apparently are still working together as a closely knit gang.
Near Corpus Christi, another supposed sighting of the Texas 7 is under investigation today. As the manhunt continued, prison officials confessed to a long list of mistakes that helped the convicts escape.
The system has failed.
Failed, according to today's report, because of no less than a half-dozen security breaches blamed directly on prison guards, including one guard who failed to report that he found the inmates unsupervised in the maintenance office, not knowing that several employees had already been bound and gagged in the next room. At one point, hostages inside managed to set off a fire alarm, which was virtually ignored. And finally, inmates wearing civilian clothing were not checked for ID at the back gate, allowing the escapees access to the tower and more than a dozen weapons before driving off.
In retrospect, the events of December 13th, 2000 fit together like a puzzle. We just didn't put the pieces together fast enough.
On hand to hear the explanation, the mother of Officer Aubrey Hawkins, who police say was killed by the convicts, blasted the board for a poorly run prison system as a whole.
This is a tragic movie for many people, certainly firsthand for me and Aubrey's dad.
Saying officials were using the guards as scapegoats, Alejandro Marroquin, who was also in the audience, threw his prison ID badge back at his bosses. He was held hostage during the escape.
If I'm scared, I'll tell you I'm terrified.
With the nation's largest inmate population, Texas also has one of the most violent. In 1999, there were more than 2,000 attacks on prison staff. Guards here have long argued the system is undermanned and unsafe.
It was just a matter of time. You got convicted murderers working in a high access area. They know the weak points of that prison.
The prison also said that the report revealed that the inmates had 2 hours to escape, time enough to severely beat their hostages with an axe handle, shanks, and other man-made weapons. It was also time to leave several notes, one of which allegedly threatened a revolution, complaining about the, quote, tyranny of the Texas prison system. Dan?
Maureen Maher in Austin, Texas. Although prison breaks aren't especially uncommon, they usually follow a pattern. This one didn't. The violent gang that pulled this one off is writing its own rule book. And as CBS's Byron Pitts reports tonight, that makes things doubly difficult and dangerous for those trying to bring them in.
They are armed and angry, and law enforcement sources admit this collection of murderers, rapists, and thieves is as rare as it is vicious.
I have never heard of 7 people escaping or 5 people or 3 people and staying together for even 24 hours, let alone several weeks.
Dennis Slocum hunted down fugitives for the L.A. County Sheriff's Department for 32 years. One of the largest prison breaks on record occurred in California when 14 inmates escaped from prison in 1995. Most were back behind bars within hours. Normally, Slocum says, cons don't run far or for very long, but the Texas 7 have broken all the rules.
What surprises me the most is that they appear to have stayed together during this time, and that also makes them incredibly dangerous.
Nationwide in prisons all across America, it's estimated close to 10,000 inmates escape every year. Convicted criminals, desperate and dangerous with little or nothing to lose. Men and women who typically follow a familiar pattern.
There's a lot of escapees. The U.S. Justice Department estimates about 2% of all felons escape at some point.
From the infamous, like James Earl Ray, the man who assassinated Martin Luther King Jr. Ray escaped once, but eventually died in prison. There have also been bizarre breakouts. like the inmate in Maryland who dug himself out of prison with a spoon twice. But Professor Culp says there has never been a case like the one in Texas.
Most of them are resolved very, very quickly and relatively peacefully.
Most times?
Most times.
But doesn't appear to be the case this time?
It's not the case this time, no.
Does that worry you?
Sure, it worries me. I mean, I think as anyone would be worried that the possibility that they're desperate people are on the loose.
Desperation of the worst kind. These 7 are already facing the death penalty for killing a police officer Christmas Eve. No one in law enforcement knows when they'll find these men, and no one believes they'll surrender peacefully. Byron Pitts, CBS News, New York.
So far it can be determined no one high or low in the Texas prison setup has been fired or suspended. But the director of South Carolina's prison system is out of a job tonight. He was fired by Governor Jim Hodges, who said today he is, quote, mad as hell over a scandal involving prison guards and inmates assigned to work at the governor's mansion. 2 guards are charged with allowing the prisoners, 2 men and 2 women, to have sex inside the mansion. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News. The cabinet clashes. President-elect Bush makes a new choice for labor. And an exclusive story, President Clinton tells CBS News why a U.S. airman may still be alive inside Iraq.
Grandmom couldn't come with us.
Chronic bronchitis or emphysema associated with COPD can keep you from doing simple things.
Sometimes she can't breathe right.
But taking Ceravent helps me take fuller breaths.
Nothing can reverse COPD, but taking Ceravent twice a day can help improve your lung function around the clock. Ceravent should not replace fast-acting inhalers for sudden symptoms or be taken more than twice a day. Some people may experience increased blood pressure, heart rate, or changes in heart rhythm. Ceravent is prescription medicine and may not be right for everyone. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure or take MAOIs or tricyclic antidepressants. Ask your doctor if Ceravent is right for you and start taking fuller breaths.
It's important to take care of yourself. It's also important to talk to your doctor. Ask your doctor about Prempro. I'm glad I did.
I've got this life philosophy. When you get thrown, you get right back up. That's why I took control with Depend Protective Underwear. It's just like regular. Same soft feel, same snug fit, and an absorbent panel built right in. So I don't have to worry. Except for the 500 head I gotta herd. Oh, girl. Yeah. Take control with Depend.
How does your gray beard or mustache reflect on you? Man, I look old. Get new vitamin-enriched Just for Men gel. The Rejuvenator, specially made to penetrate coarse gray in 5 minutes and match your hair. The Rejuvenator, Just for Men gel.
Try it both ways. Most dancers are afraid of losing a step. After I had my stroke, I was afraid I'd never dance again. Now I take Bear aspirin every day, like my doctor said, to help prevent another stroke.
Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen.
And when my body is sore, I take extra strength Bear. It's that strong. It's great to be back.
Bear. Take it for pain, take it for life.
This has more calcium than Tums?
It's true. Maalox Quick Dissolve Chewables have more calcium than regular Tums.
That's even better.
And they dissolve faster than Tums.
I'm gonna go for the Maalox.
Quick dissolve your heartburn away and get more calcium.
No doubt about it.
President-elect Bush today introduced his new nominee to be Secretary of Labor. And he mounted a spirited defense of John Ashcroft, his embattled nominee for U.S. Attorney General. CBS's John Roberts has the latest on both nominations.
In the aftermath of the Linda Chavez debacle, the president-elect acted swiftly to find a safe replacement, today naming Elaine Chao, the former head of the United Way and Peace Corps, to be his Secretary of Labor.
She brings to this post the qualities for which she is known and admired. Strong executive talent, great compassion, and a commitment to helping people build better lives.
The wife of prominent Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, she'll enjoy a warm welcome in the Senate. And she has a past working relationship with leaders of the country's largest labor unions.
I look forward to continuing and building upon those relationships.
While Bush may have bought some goodwill with Chao, it's clear that he is in for a bruising to get his pick for Attorney General John Ashcroft through confirmation.
But I don't expect him to get 100% of the vote in the Senate. I wish he would, but I don't expect that. But it's up to the Senate members of the Senate to determine whether how civil the discussions will be.
With as many as 30 Democratic senators prepared to vote Ashcroft down, conservative groups today launched a counterattack. On Capitol Hill, victims of violent crime lined up in support.
We are the mainstream of America.
At the same time, a coalition of women's groups rushed to Ashcroft's defense. They praised his passionate stand against abortion, underlined by this scene of Ashcroft displaying a sonogram of his grandchild.
If the Supreme Court saw this picture 25 years ago, would they have allowed this life to be taken?
And in sharp contrast to liberal groups, they applauded his record on civil rights.
Senator Ashcroft has done more to champion equality, diversity, and racial harmony than Jesse Jackson, Kwesi Mfume, and Louis Farrakhan combined.
Democrats are far from convinced. Today, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary demanded a videotape of a 1999 speech that Ashcroft gave at Bob Jones University, which at the time had a policy against interracial dating. The Bush transition said he can have a transcript. Dan?
John Roberts at the White House. One Bush cabinet nominee expected to win easy Senate approval is Donald Rumsfeld as Secretary of Defense. He's had the job before in the Ford administration. At his confirmation hearing today, Rumsfeld said he supports building the much-debated missile shield defense system, but suggested no deployment date. One matter facing the next defense secretary involves a story CBS News first broke about a U.S. Navy pilot downed on day one of the Gulf War. Tonight, with exclusive information from the Commander-in-Chief himself, National Security Correspondent David Martin has an update.
Even though for 10 years he has been listed as killed in action, Lieutenant Commander Scott Spiker was alive when he bailed out over Iraq, and according to President Clinton, might still be alive.
We have some information that leads us to believe that he might be alive, and we hope and pray that he is.
In an exclusive radio interview with CBS correspondent Mark Knoller, the president went on to say,
we have already begun working to try to determine whether in fact he's alive, if he is, where he is, and how we can get him out. And we're going to do everything we can to get him out.
Yesterday, the administration changed Spiker's status from killed in action to missing in action and delivered a diplomatic note to the Iraqis accusing them of concealing information about what happened to the first pilot shot down in the Persian Gulf War. In 1995, for instance, the Iraqis allowed a Pentagon team to visit the crash site.
When we got there, that area that we were searching for had already been dug through and tampered with before we arrived.
The cockpit canopy indicated Spiker had successfully bailed out, but key parts of the aircraft, like the ejection seat, were missing. And there was one obvious plant, a flight suit believed to be Spiker's. It clearly had not been lying out in the desert all those years and did not fit the story the head of the Iraqi Air Force told 60 Minutes 2 correspondent Bob Simon.
It's possible he was seriously injured after he ejected from the plane, and there are lots of wolves in the area. Maybe he was attacked by wolves.
Administration officials admit they are taking a risk by publicly accusing Iraq of covering up the truth about Spiker. If he is alive, these officials say, the Iraqis may now decide to kill him. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
The U.S. Army acknowledged tonight that American soldiers shot a, quote, unknown number of South Korean civilians at No-Gun-ri during the Korean War in the 1950s. Hundreds are said to have died, but Army investigators say they found no evidence that the soldiers, retreating and under pressure, were ordered to open fire. President Clinton said he, quote, deeply regrets the incidents. Next on tonight's CBS Evening News, a fateful deadline for bomber Tim McVeigh, now awaiting his execution date.
Today I made an omelet.
I picked an apple.
I sent the fax.
This is about chemotherapy and living your life. This is about Procrit. If you're a chemotherapy patient and you feel tired and weak, ask your doctor about Procrit.
I played a game.
Procrit is a natural way to regain red blood cells lost during chemotherapy. And more red blood cells can mean more strength.
I caught a fish.
Procrit is safe and effective. In studies, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. Procrit is for patients with non-myeloid cancers.
I went to the store.
Call now. and learn how Procrit can help you get back the strength you need. Your strength for living.
Introducing the all-new Silverado Heavy Duty. The most powerful heavy-duty pickup you can get. And the 2001 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Silverado Heavy Duty.
Don't get that, Frank.
Hello? Baxter!
Meow, 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 meow.
Four delicious flavors make Meow Mix taste so good, cats ask for it by name.
Meow, meow, meow.
It's Baxter!
Heartburn, Harry. Guess it's time to break out the Tums.
I thought I'd try this new stuff, Pepsid Complete.
Well, what was it before? Incomplete.
Who knows? But they added an antacid, so they call it Complete.
Well, if you need an antacid, Harry, you want the Tums.
That's because dose for dose, Tums Ultra neutralizes twice as much acid as Pepsid Complete's antacid. Yet the Pepsid costs almost 4 times as much as the Tums.
So, Harry, did the Tums do it?
Completely.
Tums. It beat the S&P 500 for 1 year, for 3 years, and over the life of the fund. The Strong Growth and Income Fund. Call 1-888-2-STRONG. You're one call away from a strong portfolio.
Their kids face death from a rare disease, but only one could get an experimental treatment. Now there's new hope. We'll tell you why tomorrow on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Today was the court-imposed deadline for Timothy McVeigh to change his mind about seeking an early execution date for the Oklahoma City bombing in which he murdered many children as well as adults. But with McVeigh standing by his demand for early execution, CBS's Bob McNamara tells us relatives of some of the victims are divided about his fate.
Tim McVeigh could be put to death by lethal injection as early as this May, having told his attorney to reject a last chance to appeal his conviction.
He was ready to stick with that. Hasn't changed his mind.
Now, McVeigh's life can only be spared in the unlikely event that incoming President Bush grants executive clemency, commuting his sentence to life in prison. McVeigh told 60 Minutes at Bradley last February he is prepared to die.
It's a little easier being on death row because you know how you're going to die. You can narrow down where you're going to die, and you can pretty much narrow down the time.
The deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. soil ever killed 168 people and injured 500 others.
Julie's chair is right here.
Bud Welch's daughter Julie is remembered with all the others killed here, yet he does not want McVeigh's execution carried out.
It's not going to bring this little girl back. And it's not going to bring me any peace or anyone else any peace, because God did not make us to where we're somehow going to get a feel-good out of killing this caged human being.
But if and when McVeigh is executed, many of the relatives of the 168 victims want to see him die. So many, in fact, that officials are considering a lottery to choose the limited number of witnesses that can be accommodated. Would you want to witness his execution?
I want to be there. I have to be able to know that he is finally gone and that this terror won't happen again.
Sharon Medeiros' husband, Claude, was one of the federal customs agents killed by the bomb blast.
I'm gonna die on this
She
day.
doubts that a deathbed confession will come from McVeigh.
I think he still wants to be a martyr. I think he probably has followers that believe in what he did.
But Tim McVeigh's days appear numbered now. And if he does have a death wish, his date with death could be set within a week. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Oklahoma City.
After weeks of barely speaking to one another, the Israelis and Palestinians tonight resumed high-level peace talks. An Israeli spokesman said both sides hope to agree at least on the outline of a settlement before President Clinton leaves office in 9 days. News from Science is next, so stay here with us.
If you think this is the only way to take fiber, we'd like to reverse your thinking. Now there's chewable fiber choice.
No spoon, no powder, no water, no glass. Why would you take anything else? Fiber Choice. Anytime, anywhere.
Get the whole grain goodness of Quaker oatmeal. Toasted. Quaker toasted oatmeal squares. Crisp, crunchy squares with a hint of brown sugar. It's the same Quaker oatmeal, only toasted. Get the whole grain goodness of Quaker oatmeal. Toasted. Quaker toasted oatmeal. Crisp honey sweet flakes with crunchy oat clusters. It's the same Quaker oatmeal, only toasted.
I told my father I wanted to grow up to be a teacher. Wouldn't you rather be a doctor? He said. It's a noble profession and you could become wealthy. That may be true, I said. But without teachers, where would doctors come from?
You get 1 minute every morning. 1 minute when your goals are all within your reach. You push forward knowing nothing will hold you back. Introducing new Minute Maid Premium Low Acid Orange Juice. With less citric acid, you'll have the freedom to enjoy. New Minute Maid Premium Low Acid. It's the Minute Maid to squeeze the day.
Oh.
Can't sleep, honey? What's the matter? Oh, heartburn. I know just what you need.
Introducing new Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief. Faster than Pepcid, Zantac, or even the leading prescription. Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief. Cool, effervescent, specially formulated to put out the fire of heartburn fast.
Better, dear.
New Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief. Nothing puts out the fire faster.
Another Oregon city on target to go smoke-free. We'll show you where local smokers are fuming tonight on Point 6 News at 6.
We leave you this evening with a living landmark in genetic research. He's the first ever gene-modified primate, a baby rhesus monkey. His creators gave him extra DNA pieces, and he could make a difference in your life because he's the closest thing yet to a human to have genes inserted before birth. They say he's living proof it may be possible one day to use the same genetic techniques to treat or prevent human diseases. By the way, they named him Andy. That stands for inserted DNA, spelled backward. And that's part of our world tonight. Now, here's Erin Moriarty with a preview of tonight's edition of 48 Hours.
28-year-old Christine Kupka walked out of this house almost 2 years ago and disappeared. Her sister thinks she knows what happened. Is someone getting away with murder? Rudy, did you kill Christine Kupka? Tonight on 48 Hours.
48 Hours is on tonight at 10, 9 Central. Dan Rather reporting. See you again soon on 48 Hours. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
The experimental treatment that may save all their lives tomorrow. Experience CBS News.